And
Good
I love
morning.
rocking to
Good
that
morning. Good
music.
morning. You know, I was jamming to that. Like,
I know I'm in here just a bopping to the music. Good morning. Good morning.
how you doing this morning?
I'm doing pretty good. Feeling a little crazy, but I'm feeling pretty good.
I am ready and getting geared up for this big trip to Atlanta this weekend. So
I
I am
know. I know.
focused. I'm so focused. But
You don't
ladies
want
and
to do a mini documentary for this weekend too?
no, that's not the Florida trip.
I know, but I was thinking maybe you could do a rough draft for this weekend.
Eh, okay.
Just saying. Okay, never mind. I'm not. No pressure. No pressure. No pressure.
Okay. I'll think about it. Okay. Yeah, test run. Okay. All right.
Just saying this little test run, see how it comes out. Okay, so I am at mommy's house, y'all. So there's gonna be some phone ringing in the background. I apologize in advance. I cannot turn these phones off. But probably after the second ring or so, somebody gonna grab it. So y'all
Oh,
just ignore that in the background. I'm at my mommy's today.
okay. Good morning, everyone. This is Mario Hardy, aka DJ Rat Top, with my sister
Tisha Joyner. Yeah,
Tisha
yeah.
Joyner with Eight Lilies and Young Lovey Productions. What is going on? Like everybody's phone want to start ringing when it's time for us to do this show. Let me
I
turn this phone
swear.
ring off. So today, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go into detail about family reunions, holiday events, and rentals. And we're going to talk in detail about each one of these because there's a lot of different things that people need to take into consideration when they're doing these type of events or when they're looking for rentals. So first thing we're going to talk about family reunions. And Tish, what can you give us a little bit of history or background of what have you had to deal with family reunions in the past?
Logistics is always a big thing. Getting the entire event planned out from A to Z is another thing. And that's usually because those that they select to be the spearheads of the event, of the reunion, um, get a lot of flack from other family members who did not want to be heavily involved, but then they start questioning everything involved with it, like from the price of the food to the price of the venue to the rentals that come with it, be it a tent, chairs, tables, whatever. So it kind of gets the powers that be, so to speak, who are put into that position to make those plans and whatnot. They catch a lot of flack from family members as they're getting things, not realizing how much research they've done, how much of a deal they come up with, even for hotel rooms, and the whatever park or venue they're utilizing for their outdoor activities as well as their indoor major dinner or a lot of times it's an honorary dinner, but it becomes like an issue with them where they're trying to do the right thing, but they're getting beat up on by family members along the process. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay, it's a lot of that.
And I think that's one of the biggest things about anytime you have to do a event where it requires coordination with different people,
Hmm.
logistics become a very challenging situation. Um,
Very much so.
and so that's why I said when it comes to family reunions, because one of the things that like kind of like how church events or group events are, is you
Hmm.
have different people representing different sections or different families or different things, and everyone has their own slice of the pie, and you have as a coordinator have to put the pie together.
Yes, which can be a little challenging at times. Um, it's mostly because you don't want to offend anybody by saying, "Well, no, that's not what Rosalind wanted, or that's not what Ann wanted." Like you're trying to basically straddle a fence or walk a tight line so
Right.
that you're staying on course as it was described to you. Like you might have met with the whole group. It might have been six people in the beginning and everybody was on the same page. But as the process goes on, somebody starts not liking the way something's being done.
Right.
Or they decide, oh well, I don't want to do that anymore, but not realizing that when you as the planner or the decorator have plotted out everything to go along the lines, that's what you're basing things on. And so when they start throwing these monkey wrenches in, which is basically what it is, it actually makes it so you have to um, go back to the drawing board and redesign, or go back to scratch and rediscover what needs to be done based on these constant changes. And that in itself, it can make something get lost in the process. If there's 12 things because you want to change six, now we've got to start over, which to somebody else may just change to six. It doesn't always work that easily. It
Right.
usually involves quite a few decisions that have to be made.
And I think that's one of the things that people have to understand is that you have to. And the biggest thing I've seen dealing with family reunions, you got to make a decision. You can't keep
Hmm.
going back and forth. You got to make a solid. This is what we're going to do. You can't change it because cousin Junebug decided he wanted to. He decided that they want to do something completely different. It's like
Hmm.
get all your facts and information together before you move forward. And before you
That would
even
be helpful.
when you start coordinating logistics, don't do the yo-yo effect. Don't keep going back and forth with changing your mind. That's where you need to have a committee. You have to have the key people that are paying for the event. And let me make that very clear. Whoever is paying for the event, I don't care what type of event it has the final say so. Um,
There's an issue with that though, because a lot of times with family unions or even class reunions, you have, let's say, 50 people that are paying $100 each or $75 each. Then that's when it becomes, well, I'm putting my money in it and I want this. And that's when it becomes not a group thing, but a I thing. You know what
right.
I mean?
But it's
Which is
kind of like
very
one of those,
selfish.
and it's like one of those things to where a person is making a payment in the group and the person is not making a payment. And
Hmm.
I say that because in most cases in the family reunion, is always the ones that are making the payments are the ones that don't have the problems.
True.
So it's not, and that's why I say that if it's kind of like one of those things that before you call in the professionals or your logistics that's going to support your event, like in a family reunion, you
Hmm.
all your everything needs to be like completely resolved before you bring in outside logistics. Now, if you're working internally and your logistics are part of the family, that's a whole different ball game. But that whoever that's doing that still to be treated like a professional.
Hmm.
I think that's the other issues that you run into is that when it comes to doing family reunions, they like to reach out to people in the family that have those talents and those skill set to be able to step up and do those things. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that people need to understand that look, we're giving you this responsibility, so make sure it happens the way it's supposed to happen.
True.
But when they call us in as professionals, um, then we don't need to deal with five different people.
No.
We need to deal with that one point of contact, and that one point of contact needs to establish all the kind of like how things are going to flow and take place.
Hmm.
So like with like have you like all the family reunions you worked, have you ever ran into an issue where you got three or four different people trying to tell you what's going on, what they want for
I
the
have. I have. And um my way of addressing it was I literally had a meeting with everybody, with the four people, actually. One, two. Yeah, it was four people total. So I actually had to sit down with all four of them and we went through every aspect and I said, listen, once we make these calls, these decisions, we're not gonna change this again. Because they've been going through, they hired me almost 9 months beforehand, but up until like 3 months out they started changing stuff every week, sometimes twice a week. And I was like, I'm never going to get anything done. So I just set them all down. They all, the spearheads, as I call them, they were all in the immediate area, which at that time was a triad area. And
right.
I got them to sit down with me, and we went over every aspect. And I locked them into, once we make these choices, this is where we're going with. So we spent an hour and a half, maybe, on everything. But once we got that that groundwork done and relayed back out, because I'm saying relayed because we'd already done it twice. Um, it ended up being much better, much better. So, but I will say honestly, I usually like to have one point of contact, maybe two at the most, and then they go back and forth. But at that point, I needed to get everyone that was the top tier people to sit down with me and talk with me about it so that we could move forward. But everything turned out great after that. And even with class reunions, I have 6 or 7 different people. I'm like, no, I can't. That's too many. That's too many people
Right, right,
to
right,
get a solid, I'm saying, decision. And even with church groups, I've had incidents where I've had one point of contact with the church, and that point of contact worked with everybody else, and then came back to me with that information.
right.
You see what I'm saying? So I only
Mhm.
have one point of contact, and I actually like it when the churches do it that way because it makes my life a lot easier.
Say it one more time.
I said I like it when the churches do it that way when they have that one point of contact.
Right.
Any group does it that way. That way, I have it just makes things easier because that leaves them up to negotiation with the group and not me.
So what? So once you hash out who's in charge and who's going to do what, when should someone plan or start planning a family reunion? What do you think is the best timing for them to start planning a family reunion?
Honestly, a year in advance.
A
To be
year in
honest.
advance, because
Mm-hmm.
it gives them time to get everything together. It gives everybody time to lay out all the funding, the logistics, and
That's
things like that.
correct.
So if
Mm-hmm.
you were doing, and see, I've seen some really big time family reunions, and then I've seen the local town, small town family reunions. If you have to do, if you're doing, like, when I say big time, is like they actually go into a conference center to do
Mm-hmm.
a
Mm-hmm.
virtual wedding. Or excuse me, who was that wedding? Reunion. Uh, what what do you recommend if they decide to do? Let's say they're going to do use a hotel, for example, to host their actual family reunion. What would be your recommendation to them?
Well, honestly, if you've got a lot of people coming from out of town, look for a property that either has the on-site restaurant, room service kind of stuff available, or is located like really close to places to eat. Like for instance, let's use Hampton Inn off of 53.
Okay.
They have a small room that's like I think maybe holds 40 people in their building, but they're in great proximity to like 4 or 5 different places to eat. Probably more than that because if you go across the bridge, there's even more stuff over there.
Right.
But I would recommend some place like that if you can. If you don't can't get room service or in-house restaurant, then definitely look for a place that's nearby a lot of places because a lot of times you don't want your family having to drive around places they're not familiar with for somebody to get lost or anything like that or go into a bad area or anything like that. So that way they can go within walking distance. They can see the restaurants there, because there's a Ruby Tuesdays right there. What is that other one that's out there?
You
There's
got,
another one.
was it not, you got, um
I'm
you
trying to
said
think
Ruby
of there's
Tuesday?
more. There's a Ruby Tuesdays right there by that um Hampton and Holiday Inn that's out there. Then there's something across the street.
Okay, wait, where are we talking about?
53 Eastern Boulevard, not Eastern Boulevard. What is it? Deep Creek Road, Cedar Creek Road. There you go.
Oh, you talking about out there. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you
Where
got
the
quite a
double
few
streets
different.
on one side.
Right, right. Okay. Yeah, you got quite a bit. You got McDonald's, I mean, you got a lot of different fast food restaurants out there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's
And
like
yeah,
you got Crackle Barrel, you got
that's what it was. I was trying to remember what it was. The
Cracker
Cracker
Barrel.
Barrel out there.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
so it's quite a
So
few places. Like some place like that. I would definitely look at DoubleTree and Holiday Inn. I'm just using them as examples because people probably are familiar with that area. Um, I would suggest something similar to that if you're looking for something that where everything is in house, meaning your food is right there for your big dinner night or whatever dinner dance night or whatever you're doing at the last night. But I always look at like how close are you to a park or places where you guys can actually reserve a shelter area
right, right.
so the kids have a place to play, especially people bringing their kids or grandkids with them. So you definitely want to find a great park where you can reserve a shelter. And believe it or not, just like you thought about, I'm going to name a place, like Rowan Street Park. You
Right.
might have thought about Rowan Street Park, but 135 other people thought about it too.
Hmm.
So that's why I say plan ahead.
and
because
like I said, plan way ahead because
yes,
sometimes that can be, you can run into some serious conflicts.
yes,
Be familiar with your area. I mean, like me, I've sat back in some of the family reunions I've actually done. Like when I went out to California, I was hired to do an event in California, and then also one
hmm
in Florida. The family reunions I did for both of those locations, um, they properly planned it. They had it set up to where people who had to fly in, the actual airport was close to the location where the family reunion was going to. So
hmm
if they had to get a rental car or something like that, they didn't have to travel that far away. That's the other thing is having other transportation logistics available.
hmm
Don't choose a location that they don't have access to rentals
or shuttles at
or
the
shuttles.
hotel. Yeah,
That's another
because a
good
lot of
thing to save
times,
money with shuttles. You're right.
yeah, because a lot of times the hotels, like for instance, Holiday Inn offers a shuttle service to the airport.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So there's a way that they can get from the airport to the hotel, but those are things that have to be plotted out, especially when you're bringing in some 30 to 50 people from wherever they're coming from. Logistics can become a nightmare if you're not paying attention. You know what I mean? So
Right.
you really have to go after making sure that you've got everybody covered, which is not an easy thing to do. I'll be very honest, it's not as easy as it may sound. Um, but like for me, I did one in South Carolina once, and I had I think about 14 different flights coming in with like one or two up to five family members for each flight, and was trying to coordinate them all to come in the hotel, will come into the airport within the same 2 to 3 hour period. And boy, when I tell you, it was a logistical nightmare. I mean, I figured it out, but it was a lot to
Right.
get it done because they hadn't even done any of their flight stuff. And we're talking about 48 to 50 days away from the event when I'm trying to book flights.
Mm.
So I mean, those things come up and they happen. So I always just suggested class reunions, um, really huge church functions, but mainly family reunions. You've got to plan for those things well in
Absolutely.
advance because what you don't want to do is be under the pressure, under the gun, behind the eight ball, whatever you want to call it, with panic with the event right around the corner.
Right. And then
That's a lot.
the one thing is you also have to find out like exactly how many days is your family going to last, because each day is going to be a different challenge. Like you said,
Yeah.
from the first day is your initial contact, you're kind of like you're welcoming, and then that's
hmm
normally what people do is a little small little get together, and then of course that second day is always the biggest day. That's where there's a lot of activity. Your outdoor activities might take place, and that evening, the actual formal portion of the family reunion takes place, and then the very next day is okay, this is kind of like the after party. Um,
hmm
and it's like that's what's critical is to know exactly what you want to do from each and every level, and then every family is different, and I think that's what people you can't use the same template for every single family reunion. Every family reunion is going to be different. You have those families that come together and they go all the way out, and then you have those other families that they're limited on their resources. So it's more of a small, like I said, I call it like more of a small town type family reunion where they go
hmm
to where the family originally is from, and they meet there every single time. So I've seen both, where some families they rotated to different places. They
hmm
might go one year, it might be Florida, then the next year it might be California. And so
hmm
those are the bigger ones because there's a lot more coordination has to be done. When you're going from one location to another, there's a lot more coordination has to be done.
There's
Um,
a lot.
so, but family reunions are they're like I said, it's a lot of logistics. It's a logistics nightmare if you're not taking time to if you're not taking time to really plan it.
hmm
So,
Like for instance, what would be some? Because a lot of times we'll get this question. Um, we have to have activities for this age group, which is normally like 12 and under. Our preteen, our teenage group, and then our young adults, and then our middle life. Then our older.
right,
So, like, that's a lot.
It is.
because these are people that we don't know.
And I think that's
And you want us to plot out events or things, activities for them to do?
right. And that's what it becomes a very big it becomes a really big um it becomes a big issue when you're trying to take different generations and entertain them all at one time.
True,
And so you really have to sometimes you have to get out there and get that feedback so you know what works and what doesn't work.
true.
And, and what happens most of the time is your older generation tries to dominate what goes on, what happens, and then they seem to forget about the younger generation. And that's that's why the younger generation you got to connect the dots. You got to connect it to where everybody comes together and everybody is able to enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
at the
we
same
would
time,
love
be
for
respectful
that to be that easy. I would
and
love
just
to say it's usually that easy, but it's not.
right. It's not. And the thing is, it's all about being respectful too, because we just talked about this 2 days ago. You got to if it's a family oriented event, you really got to make sure that you're not going to disrespect Aunt Juju. You got to make sure you don't. Which
Or Nana,
on there you go, or Nana.
or Uncle Pete, or Uncle Bobby. I'm just saying.
So, but that's like that. But I think, like I said, with Fairy Union, we just kind of like wanted to give y'all a kind of like a round of, like a quick rundown on family reunions because the next thing we're talking about it kind of like corresponds with family reunions because most time when you're doing holiday events, it almost has the same similarities of a family reunion. And
True.
holiday events, the first thing I stress to people is timing. You can't wait to the last minute to do a holiday event. If
No.
if you plan on doing a Christmas like a holiday, like let's say Christmas celebration or Fourth of July celebration, or even
Mhm.
if you're doing a event on a holiday, you got
Mhm.
a lot of things you got to take into consideration. You're competing. One of the things I will say with this is with certain holidays, your logistics are going to be maxed out on different things. And I know a lot of people are starting to learn that Memorial Day weekend is probably the worstest holiday to plan an event around because majority of the time that is probably one of the biggest, I would say, summer events that people do things is when the summer, like Memorial Day holiday, everyone knows
Travel. That's
how
a travel event. That's a
right.
travel week holiday. Period.
That's one of those major ones. Fourth of July is not all as big as it used to be, but
Mm-mm.
Memorial Day weekend, and Labor Day weekend seem to be the most biggest months excuse me, biggest weekends where you really don't want to wait till last minute to do like last minute plan or planning for logistics for
Mhm.
events
Very true.
because you have some people like and I've seen this a lot too. You have some families that use holidays as their planning weekends for the weekend. Like I've
Mhm.
had like Labor Day, Memorial Day, and not really Fourth of July, but like that very next weekend after Fourth of July is those are the three biggest weekends I get most of my family reunions on.
Mhm.
So holiday
That's
events,
about right.
you really and then like Christmas, and then like that's one of the biggest things. Christmas and Thanksgiving, you really need to get out there in advance because hotels will get locked up real quick if you have family coming from out of town for your event or if it's just people in general. So you really want to take time. I know, like with if the was one of the units on Fort Bragg, they do a big one every year that weekend, but excuse me, that week before Christmas, and
Mhm.
they go through and they got a lot of people coming from out of town because the major unit is in three different other countries, excuse me, other states. So they're coming in just for that event. So that's why I tell people all the time, it's like you really can't for holidays, you really
Yeah.
can't wait. And then you don't want to like I have people who always want to do weddings on the holidays. What is your what is your what is your advice on that, Tish? I know you probably experienced this more than I have.
I literally will tell you this. Um, I'll have brides and grooms will say, "Oh, we're gonna do our wedding Memorial Day weekend because everybody will be in town." Did you do a survey beforehand? Because I have had people book these holiday events, even like a Thanksgiving weekend, and hunty, only half of their people show up, even though they RSVP'd they were coming. And I find them to be one of the hardest days to keep people on task, because people make plans with their family to do other things. Um, but it really depends on your group. I always suggest, if you're going to pick a date like that that's around a holiday, please reach out to your potential guest list and really survey them and say, hey, do you guys have plans this weekend? We were thinking about doing our wedding this weekend. And if you're telling them you're planning, you haven't settled a date yet, they're more likely to tell you the truth. Be like, well, no, girl, we're going to be going to so and so. Or
Right.
we're going to my in-laws that weekend, or we're going to to Cancun that week. I don't know, but they'll tell you about their plan. But I really feel like couples need to be a little bit more aware that people choose holidays as time to spend with their family. Not that you're not their family, but you're not their immediate and their house family. So sometimes what you're expecting them to do, which is give up their regular scheduled vacation to Jamaica to come and
Right.
be in
Right.
North Carolina with you at this vineyard with the outdoor ceremony where it's hot. Boo, you asking a lot. Seriously.
And that's that's the biggest thing. As I tell people, is as soon as they let me know they're going to do their event on a holiday,
Mhm.
I automatically let them know that time is against you, because you really need to start planning your logistics. You really need to start putting things in place to make
Mhm.
sure that you're not going to run into any issues and problems, because the resources go up real quick for holidays.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Vendors are family people too. We have husbands and wives, children. Some people have grandchildren, and holidays are inconveniencing us because whether you realize it or not, we miss out on holidays with our family because we're doing stuff with you because we're booked to do something with you. So a lot of vendors charge a holiday fee
Right.
because you're making us miss out on stuff with our
Absolutely.
family to allow you to have this thing with your family. So you have, don't want to say this in a mean way, but sometimes I think people forget that we are mothers and fathers and daughters and sons. We have family obligations as well, just like you do. This is what we do for a living, but this is not all we do.
Right.
So you have to be considerate of the fact that sometimes we're going to charge you because honestly, you're taking us away from our own family.
Absolutely. And that's like for example, I mean that's like, and I'm gonna say New Year's Eve is the perfect one. Like
Oh
that
my
is
gosh.
that's the most challenging one across the board, is when you're doing an event for New Year's Eve. It's kind of like a lot of vendors I've learned are starting to they're stop doing New Year's Eve parties. Who wants to bring in the New
Or
Year's Eve?
wedding.
Huh?
For 10 years straight, every New Year's Eve for 10 years straight, I did a New Year's Eve wedding.
Really?
For the last two since 2021, I haven't done one.
And to me, I'm really big on not doing anything. I think since 2018, I've learned that doing New Year's Eve parties are just a waste, because a lot of people would prefer to be with their families versus go out and celebrate. I mean, that's just some people. Some people, it like will spend more to go to church versus go out and do anything.
Hmm. But
So
all of my events on New Year's Eve have, I'm sorry, 11 years, for 11 years straight, because I stopped in 2021. That was my last year doing them. But for 11 years straight, from 2010 to 2021, I had a New Year's Eve wedding every single year. Not
wow,
a party, a New Year's Eve wedding. And that thing just, listen, I love people and I love love and I want them to have a great event. But sometimes, like I'd rather be at the house of the Lord if you don't mind.
yeah,
Get me some worship and praise in, you know what I'm saying? Or be at home with my husband and my son.
right.
Let me enjoy family time too. Let me welcome in the new year too with my family.
But that's one of those things too, where that's what you were saying earlier, is a lot of vendors will actually do an upcharge because it's a holiday.
That's
You're
correct.
going to pay them from their losing that time with their family. So you're gonna pay for it. Like me, I like Thanksgiving. I just don't do like the two holidays I don't do stuff on is I won't do anything on Thanksgiving and I won't do anything on
All
Christmas.
right, go ahead.
Those are the two things, two places. Um, okay, I said those are the two places that the two holidays I just won't do anything. And I believe that that's the critical part to planning stuff for holidays. You really need to get a head start on that one because a lot of vendors and venues are not going to be available.
True.
So you
So,
got to get
you
ahead
know,
of
you
that.
gotta remember that. That's a great point because you gotta remember they're family people too.
Right.
Like, here's the thing, and this is kind of off the subject matter of today, but kind of bringing up a point that I think we should probably bring up to people. You have to remember that for you, or your event may be a couple hours this day, a couple hours that day, but not for us. And you're asking venue owners to give up time with their family. You're asking business owners to give up time with their families. I think a lot of times people forget we have whole lives that exist, that have to coexist with our businesses. And not to be funny, but our businesses cannot come before our family. And I think people are they don't do that. Like if you work at McDonald's, when I see you, I shouldn't be saying, "Hey, I need a Big Mac." You know what I'm saying? Unless you're at McDonald's. You follow what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you clock out, you're done there. You're going to your life for
Well,
that day.
and I think that's the difference between family family business and corporate business is that
Hmm.
corporate controls like there is no time limits. There's no limitations. But when you're a family business, you control when and how you want to
Hmm.
conduct your business. And so to
That's
me, it comes with the territory of being a business owner, period. But at the same time, understand the difference between corporate and family business
right. Hmm.
because that is one of those things that I agree 100%. What you get at corporate, you're not going to get the same with a family business.
You're right.
Family business is a little bit more personal than corporate business. Corporate is more about the dollar bill. Family orientated business is more about to proper care, making sure things go off. Like we're going to treat you the way we want to be treated.
Hmm.
In some cases, don't care about that.
Yeah, that's
But that's just one of those things that, um, well, someone tweet for post something great.
family
Okay,
reunions, class reunions, anything like that. I think
right,
people forget that. And I'm just going to use Fellows Market right now because we're, pretty much talking about Fellows Market. But
right,
you have a certain number of hotels that can host up to maybe 150, 200 people. There are a couple of hotels in our area that can actually host 450, 500 people. Not that
right.
I'm against each other in picture, whatever it is, but it can. But if we just strictly stay in the Fayetteville area, not including um, what is it, this Pinehurst and all that. Let's just say Fayetteville. You're going to be limited to about maybe what maybe one, two, three, four, maybe 5 or 6 locations that can hold larger groups.
Right,
And you can include the Coliseum in that part too.
right,
And then you're looking at most venues in the area, truthfully, can hold up to between most of them can do like up to 100, maybe 80 safely, but 100, and then the rest may fall into that 150 to 200 range. But I'm not going to say it's a handful of venues, but it's not a ton of venues here. There's not 87 venues in the Fayetteville area. Now there may be about 50
okay.
venues. Yeah, it may be about 50 plus venues between Spring Lake, Hope Mills, and Fayetteville. But understand this: there are how many residents in this area? There's over 100,000 people
Right, right, absolutely,
that
and I want to tell
live.
you, and I'm glad you brought that up because and this is the thing, Fayetteville has a lot of venues, but only has a handful that can handle 200 or more people.
There you go.
And then when you start getting with the higher numbers, you really don't have the resources to support it.
It can really be, and I guess my whole point was, and which I want to touch
The
on that too.
recreation centers,
But
like right, where David. Good morning, David. And congratulations. He's just getting back from his wedding. He was the couple.
oh,
He was one that the couple I was telling you about. They had the wedding on the cruise.
yes, yes, congratulations.
But
Woo, woo,
he was
woo.
saying recreation centers, and that recreation centers, believe it or not, that is a good location. Is that a lot of recreation centers are available, but if you're doing it on a holiday, they they might not be open or available. I know
And they
recreation
don't allow
centers,
alcohol for
huh?
those that don't want dry weddings or
Right,
dry
that's
events.
right. They don't
They
support
don't
alcohol.
allow alcohol.
Absolutely. Oh, you're welcome, David.
And
But that's one of those biggest things that people have to understand is that when you deal with different places, I'm glad you said that because I forgot recreation center does not allow you to have alcohol. Um,
cannot.
so there's limitations of what you can and can't do. Just like you have some of those church halls that they're huge, but they won't. You can't do but certain things.
And you can't play. Some of them don't allow you to play secular music. It's
Right.
just every place has their own set of rules. But the main reason I was bringing stuff up about the number of venues here, and I appreciate that, Dave, because I hadn't even mentioned community centers at all. But I was thinking about how, and I'm not even counting Fort Bragg in our head count. I'm just saying Fayetteville.
Excuse
But
me. That's for Liberty. I get it right.
I'm sorry, Fort Liberty.
Look, don't
My bad. I still
we
want
don't
to
want
be
to
called
cook. We
Fort
don't give.
Bragg.
We don't want these
My
people coming
bad.
after us because we said Fort
Okay, I'm
Bragg.
sorry, my bad. Who I almost forgot. But that was real because people will be coming after us about not remembering the new name, and I'm really that person that was like, "For oh my bad, Liberty." But you got to remember that the military base here adds another huge number to our account. What's here, people wise. So if you've got, let's say, I'm the civilian and my fiance is the military person. Maybe he's stationed here and most of his friends are here at Fort Liberty. That means I've got to bring everybody there. So you got me who probably lives in I don't know, Texas somewhere or Georgia somewhere or Maryland or whatever. I'm coming down and I'm bringing folk with me, so I'm coming to take up a venue too. That's why I say plan ahead,
Right.
because we're limited. Like, I'm not saying there needs to be 10 more venues in the area because we're almost saturated to a certain degree on certain things, but you have to remember you don't have a lot to work with here, and
Right.
that's in most cities. And I'm not just picking on Fayetteville. This is my hometown, so I'm not picking on Fayetteville, but I'll be honest, where I live 24/7, High Point, Greensboro, Kernersville, Winston-Salem area, we have a ton of event centers up there, but there are a ton of people that live up there too.
Right.
Everybody's jumping. If you don't jump fast enough or early enough, you're not going to have a venue.
And that
You're
and
going to
that
be searching.
and that's the crazy part too. Because like I've noticed down recently, a lot of Fort Bragg or excuse me, ooh, I almost messed up again. Fort Liberty do a lot
Okay.
of their events during the week now, so they have access to more resources. Just like I've noticed, like um, I booked I think two events for Liberty, and both are on Wednesday. One's on Wednesday, one's on a Thursday, so
Mm-hmm.
they don't have to worry about those issues or those challenges. And then like on one of them is on base, the other one is off base. So logistics is critical when it comes to anything dealing with holiday events, family reunions.
Mm-hmm.
You really have to plan ahead in advance. Most of those type, excuse me, most of those type of events require at least a year out planning. Waiting
Yeah,
to the last minute, like I know some people they wait till 6 months, and by that point in time, you have to settle for things that are available.
that's correct. And then you have people that call me like 2 months in advance of a date. Oh, my wedding's in October. Um, do you have a venue already? Oh, I'm still looking. What?
Right.
And they could have called me in June, and I'm in a panic for them because I realize they don't really know what limitations are up against. because it's
Right.
really not that easy. And don't get me wrong, you can find your dream venue, but it doesn't mean your dream venue wasn't 37 other ladies' dream venue too,
Right.
or the
And
other two that wanted your same date, or so. You know what I'm saying? So that's what we always talking about. Plan accordingly, plan ahead. This is really important, and it's
and
mainly
then
because we run into a lot of clients or potential clients or even clients that literally have not planned, and then we're literally jumping through hoops trying to find a location.
right. And
You
that's
know,
one of the things, and that's one of the things that like a lot of people, they think that they're safe where they say, oh, you know what? I plan on doing it in my backyard. I plan on going the rental way of doing things. I want to rent things. And that brings us to our next subject, which is rentals. Um, just because you're doing it in your backyard and you're going to rent things to support your event doesn't mean that those resources are going to be available.
that's correct.
I know that during the COVID time, a lot of the rental places pretty much went out of business because they couldn't provide services. So you have to be, especially in the Fayetteville area, we don't have all those resources that we used to have. I think at one point in time we had like 4 or 5 different rental companies. I think we're down to 2 now. When it comes to certain rentals, like especially if you start talking about the big tents and stuff like that, and then out for all my
Hmm.
military people, yeah, you can go MWR, but in most cases you got to put that tent up yourself.
Hmm. And then
So
you also have the other military personnel that's going to MWR as well. You're
right,
not the only one. Like, don't get me wrong, everybody's special. Everybody's day is important, but you have to be realistic. Just like you like June 2nd, I promise you there's 130 other ladies that like the same day too.
or the
You know
well,
what I mean? Or,
the other popular one was it May the 4th. That I don't know why
yeah,
that sticks in my mind so much because over the
because
years
it's a Star Wars thing.
it's a
It's
Star
the May
Wars
the 4th be with you. Yeah.
right. So
Yeah,
it's a
that's
big
why.
Star Wars thing. So a lot of people schedule, especially if they're Star Wars fans, they will schedule their event just because around that time frame. I don't know what it is about that weekend, but I all my Star Wars peoples,
Hmm.
they go crazy over that weekend. But when it comes to your rentals, um, understand what you're renting. I mean, don't just think, oh, I'm gonna go get this 40 by 40 tent, um, and then just and be able to pop it up in my backyard. No, you got
No.
and just because you get that rental tent and you're doing that, you're putting up that rental tent in the middle of July or August. What's the first thing you got to do to go along with that tent? You got to provide the power source to support everything outside. You got to have a way to keep the people cool. Uh, you might be providing shade, but that heat is still going to rise up against you.
You better
So,
believe it, buddy.
so rentals is, and I think that's one of the biggest things we talk about rentals is that understand just because, and I'm going to tell people this right off the bat, doing it in your backyard is not going to save you money.
No.
It's just not going to do it. You're going to spend more money than ever doing it in your
You
backyard.
gotta have a generator. Like, okay, the tent is up. Now you gotta have tables and chairs. You don't have a dance floor, so if you don't have a concrete area, you're gonna have to add something to the yard. Or people, you might tell all your people not to wear any heels because most women like to wear heels to weddings. So their heels don't go into the ground. Or you got to provide heel protectors for everybody, and everybody's shoe heel doesn't fit every shoe protector because the heel sides are skinny to wide to thick. And then you've got to get a generator for your power source
Right.
to provide lighting and all of that. Not that you have to have one, but it's best to have a
No, it is.
generator.
No, no,
Um,
I want to address that right here, right now. You
okay,
got to rent. If you're going outdoors, it is in your best interest to rent a generator. It's just,
I
I
believe
mean,
that because of fans and the lighting and all of
yes,
that. But
everything
that's
you got
me.
to do, you're going to have to pull off of something, and that one circuit that you run that one drop cord is not going to do it. And just like the
That's
blow
right.
up, like a lot of people don't know when you get those blow up like little amusement parks or castles or little play areas for children, you
They
got
have a blower that has to be
has to take
main.
up a
main
significant amount of
yeah.
power. So you have to rent
Hmm.
a lot more stuff just to meet the same requirements of a venue. So don't
Right.
think going in your backyard is going to solve the problem, especially in the summertime. I mean, you just got to be prepared for all the above. And then one of the biggest
Yeah.
things I tell people, if you're going to do something outdoors, please make sure you treat the ground that your guests are going to be
Oh my
exposed.
God, the ants. Oh my gosh.
That people
You,
don't
I'm,
understand. The ants
let me
are
tell you. I'm gonna tell you something. There was a wedding that was done in a client's backyard, and I asked them about treating their backyard. But let me tell you, where I was supposed to put the cake table, I couldn't because there was huge ant hills. I don't carry the stuff to kill your ants because I asked you to do that.
right,
Okay. So when I'm putting them up, I had to literally move the whole cake table set up to a corner to get them away for all the ants.
right.
Literally. It's like you have got to treat your yard. Mosquitoes, yes. Bugs, yes. Ants are relentless.
Yes,
They do not give up. They will crawl up tablecloths, crawl up the legs of the table, whatever. They gonna get to the food. You hear me?
right.
They going to get it. So y'all got to do better with these outdoor events. Make sure that you are getting everything taken care of in advance. Terminex and Orkin offer service all day long. Check them out
I mean,
if
at the
you don't
end of
want to
the
buy
day,
it out of Walmart.
and I say you can go to like Lowe's, Walmart, any of these stores, and
Mm-hmm.
get that stuff that you can treat your yard.
Hook onto your water hose. Yeah.
Right. And that's why I said
Mm-hmm.
that, 'cause like sometimes, I mean, a lot of events I've done over the years, they'll do it in their backyard and they don't treat the yard. And first thing you're doing is like you're like, oh dang, what DJ over there doing the mix? Now he's trying to kill that ant on his equipment. So it's like
That's right.
you really got to take time to do what's necessary. That's why I tell with rentals, I want people to understand it's like doing rentals, you know, please understand what you're renting. Please understand
Mm-hmm.
what comes with that rental. Like I said, if you're renting, if you go out here and you're renting, um, what's one of the popular things that people like to rent from your company? Throne
Outside of
chairs?
tables and chairs, throne chairs, yes. Acrylic um cake tables, cake swings, oh, Javari chairs that don't work very well outside unless they're on the ground, like they're on a, a concrete surface or
I'm gonna
wood
say,
surface.
look, all right, look, you already know how I feel about them chairs. Uh,
I know.
like I said, you can't, like I said, if you got big people in your family, you know, you might want to look into renting something else. So I mean, it's just
They're called universal chairs.
yes,
Universal folding chairs. They're the most sturdy chairs that they make, period.
lifetime
And they
forever.
can hold, yeah, lifetime. There you go. Lifetime. They can hold 400 something pounds to 600 pounds.
Right.
Not to be insulting to anybody, but seriously, because if you sit on one of our Shivari chairs, you might crack it
Oh,
if you over a certain
even the little
weight.
plastic white chairs, the ones that they use a lot for weddings, those
Yes,
things,
they
if you
are.
don't get the right ones, they only can hold up to 300 pounds. There are
Hmm.
some that are certified that hold up to 600, but you got to know which ones those are. And a lot of people don't pay attention to that.
And a lot of venue management people, they're not the ones buying them. The
No,
owners are. So you can best believe the owners probably spent the least amount of money possible
absolutely. All day
on
long.
this chair.
So that's why I
Okay.
tell people is like when you're going to do rentals, understand the circumstance, just like your chairs. Okay, your throne chairs. The throne chairs is to highlight the guest of honor. It is not for the kids to go and jump up and down on it and start taking pictures and poses with cakes and stuff on their hands. People are when you rent something and you damage it, you just bought it.
There you
Understand,
go.
understand that that goes with those rentals is you make sure you're take care of your rentals because if you break it, you will buy it.
And let me explain this one thing right here. Insurance waivers. Listen, I don't know any other way to explain this properly. I'm just going to say it in the most pl- uh, plain language I can use, layman's terms in the world. Insurance waivers only apply to damages that are beyond your control. Meaning, I rented some tents to a mall once. They had them all in the parking lot. A big gust of wind came along and snatched off one of the tents. the insurance company actually had to cover it because that was something that was beyond their control.
Right.
Okay. One of my throne chairs, actually, my BFF had a throne chair rental, and I had one that did this too, where the person that rents the chair cracked the frame of the chair. Guess what they just did? Bought a whole chair because they had to replace it. That
Right.
was something that could have been avoided.
Right.
In our contract, it tells you the weight maximum weight per chair is 325 pounds. Period. These chairs are not, and I'll be honest with you, people think they're just made somewhere in some factory. No, no, no. They are hand carved. Seriously. So the wood has to be a certain grade of softness to it in order for them to hand carve these designs out.
Right.
They're not stamped that way. They're not pressed that way. They're hand carved. So with the wood having to be a certain amount, it has to have a certain amount of softness to it. That means you or your two nieces that want to go plop in the chair could actually break one of the legs or break the frame by plopping their butts in the chair. And now you just bought a broke chair.
Right. I know I seen one where the kids were jumping up and down like it was a bed, and they did a lot of damage to the chair, and so when it came back and the person that I can't remember which company it was, but it was one that I worked with a lot. They asked me what was the issue, what was the problem. Of course, because of my cameras, you can see the video footage of where the kids were jumping up and down in the chair.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, it's like there's certain things, and I think that's one of the biggest things is that people have to understand how to control their kids at these events. A
That's
lot of
right.
people, that's the reason why people don't want kids at events, is because some people don't know how to control their kids. So it's kind of
Oh
like,
my God.
go ahead.
Video that is posted on mom's page right now. It's a little girl in the video, but above the video it says, I don't like to do anything where I can't take my daughter. And then the next part says daughter, and the daughter is literally taking the server from the knife and server set for the wedding couple, and she's cutting out a hunk of cake out of a 5 or 6 tier cake. And I'm thinking, first of all, who taking the video and ain't snatching her up? Second of all, where are people at? Why aren't they there getting this child to protect the couple from probably $1,200 they spent on a cake to have done for this little girl to come and destroy it?
Mm,
Those are the types of things that happen at events. And people act like it's supposed to be so. No, listen, we're looking at our equipment, replacement values, and a lot of us do not want to have to send clients bills after the fact
right.
or anything. If you walk out the door with a napkin, I got to charge that client for that because otherwise I have to keep replacing the fact that y'all keep taking my napkins or my napkin rings or my charger plate. Oh, and while we're talking about charger plates, can y'all please stop throwing them in the trash? They are not disposable.
Well,
The
it's not.
plate
But see,
that you eat
no
off
better
of is
yet,
disposable.
don't even use them. And that's what I said. The biggest problem is that people don't understand that chargers are decor. They're designed for
They're
decor.
decorative items.
They're
You don't
not.
eat off of
They're
them and you don't throw them in the trash.
right. They're like flat, was it like like table placements. They're just
Yes.
there to decor, like to highlight the area where you're sitting at. I keep, you know what? That's what I say. I actually keep seeing stuff where they're using the chargers for plates. They're using chargers for takeout, like for takeout. They'll take two chargers, put them together, put them together.
I'm like, who does that?
I mean,
What
and then
what
some
in the
people,
world?
hey, what's going on, Brad?
Hey Brad.
But I mean, when it comes to rentals, people have to understand, and it like, and if people are not, and I don't know, I'm gonna be honest, I don't know how to even to begin to even to explain to people how you deal with a situation where if a person has never been exposed to using chargers, do you want we're supposed to make an announcement that the round things you see on the table are not plates; those are chargers.
Mhm.
Please do not throw them away. I mean, it's sad because people don't understand that these are chargers, so you got to let them know in advance. Same thing with the napkins. linen type napkins are not supposed to be taken with you as souvenirs. They're not used
Okay.
as your own personal like thing to take it. Those have to be replaced. If you take them, that means that person's got to pay for them. If you see
Mm-hmm.
linen napkins, they in most cases are being rented. There's a difference between paper napkins you can throw away and do whatever you want with, but linen napkins in most cases, I'm gonna say 99.9% of the time, are being rented. It's very rare that people go out and buy linen napkins for the event. So please, understand the difference between rental and stuff that you can dispose and get rid of. If it's not a paper product or a plastic item, in most cases, it's a rental. What else you have to
Okay.
say? Sis?
I don't even want to go there because I'm really my mindset is gone.
I know you
Um,
like the decorations.
Another
I know
thing, about 20 years ago, maybe even longer, um, you would have decorators that or weddings or parties where you could literally take the centerpiece and it would be like a souvenir. Um 90%, 99% of the time, I'm gonna say 99% of the time, that's not true these days. Stop taking those votive holders with the candles in them. I know they're pretty, I know they're cute, they're not yours. Like Medea said, it's not yours. Okay, don't take that. Don't take the centerpiece items.
I was about to
They're
say
not
that.
yours either. Um, Please stop eating off the charger plate, the decorative charger plate, which I should start leaving a label on the bottom that says this is not meant intended for food to go on. It tells you that on the bottom. But please stop using charger plates to eat on. Please stop throwing away the charger plates. Please stop taking our napkins. And if you're a woman that's going to a wedding and your napkin is white, blush pink, a light color, cream, or whatever like that, don't put your red lipstick on that napkin because you just had your friend whose wedding you just came to or whose event you just came to. They're paying for that napkin now because
Right.
9 times out of 10, your lipstick is not coming out.
And one of the
Okay.
other things, one of the things I stress to people is that I always recommend use the plastic look-alike type silverware. Don't use real silverware. Real
But they throw
silverware,
that away too.
they do it because it becomes more. You're going to spend more money. You already spent money to rent it, but then when it has to be replaced, you're going to spend more money to replace it. So why waste? Like, go ahead and just invest in that paper, those paper products that look like the real thing, and they can just throw them away after they're done. I've had that at numerous. Anytime I see anyone wants to use real glasses, real silverware, real plates, not only are they renting it, but they're paying for it because
Hmm.
somebody broke it, someone dropped it, someone threw it away. Um, it's like it never fails. So then
And you know who you're inviting to your event. You know you need to educate some of them folks.
in some
You
cases,
you
yeah,
need you really do. You need to go ahead and educate these folk that are coming to your event, your family, your class, your wedding reception, whatever it is, your party, your retirement event. Educate your folks because if
absolutely
you don't do it, your I'm sorry, y'all, my mommy's phone ringing. If you don't educate these folks, you're gonna be paying for a whole lot of stuff that
right,
they've basically ruined
and that's
or
why I think
trash.
rentals are more something that you're going to spend more money. Um, you're going to spend more money doing rental stuff.
And
I mean,
replacing stuff.
replacing stuff than it's ridiculous.
So the average rental company charges about 25 cent to 50 cent per just basic silverware, flatware is what you say. So, but to replace that silverware, flatware, the average company pays about five $5 to $8 per piece. Sometimes it could be that high to purchase them.
Right.
Um, on the low end, I've seen them at 330 or 339, something like that. But and then if you're getting into the more specialty items like gold, flat, flatware, so like that, those can be almost $20 a piece, or
Right.
meaning $20 a set to get those or
Mhm.
more. So if I'm missing a knife or a spoon from my set, depending on where I got it from, I may not be able to buy the individual piece. Some
Right.
companies they sell them as a set.
Right.
So now I've got to get a surplus and two other things because your people threw away this thing, and it gets expensive. And it may sound like a minimal amount of money, but if you have 200 guests and I'm missing 30, 40 pieces of silverware or flatware, that's times $20.
Right.
That's
I
gonna add
remember,
up real quick.
and I remember once upon a time. I remember I was trying to be helpful and take the top off of one of the drink stations, which was out of crystal. It was a crystal type drink station, and
Mm-hmm.
went to go take the top off and put it down, and it slipped off the table and fell and
Mm-hmm.
broke.
Mm-hmm.
That drink station, I had to go out and pay $180 just for that drink station, just to replace that top. So I
Mm-hmm.
gave them the top, and then I kept the other portion of the drink station. But it was just the point that it cost me $180 just
Yeah.
because I dropped the lid to it. So I tell the people,
Yeah.
when you get your rentals, get rentals that make sense for the people that you're going to invite. If you got a lot of kids coming, anything that's breakable, don't do it.
Don't have it.
Don't do it. I mean, because like it's like, and that's the thing. People say kids are gonna be kids, but guess what? Kids will cost you too. So be careful.
I don't believe in that phrase, kids will be kids. Raise
Huh?
your children at home. I don't believe in that phrase, kids will be kids. I don't back that at all.
My thing is that
Because I believe,
that phrase to me is an excuse for
yeah,
bad behavior. That's just my
yeah,
own personal view on that one. But
yeah. I feel like raise your children at home so you get in public with them. They know how to act. Now I'm
right,
gonna throw something personal in here for just a second. I have two sons that are special needs and been special needs since they was 4 and 5. Okay, I've never, ever, ever, ever had you spank them in public. Do you hear me? Because we were raising them at the house. So when they got out in public, they understood how to act. Be it
right.
church, be it a restaurant, be it a wedding or party, they knew how to act. Uh-uh. Do your due diligence. Handle that at home. Your child should not be the one I'm chasing away from the sweet table because he or she is trying to grab some stuff off the sweet table before the bride and groom have ever made it in for their own reception. Or that little girl that I told you about the video that was cutting into the cake. That should not be. You should not want that to be your child. And then you get people like that get mad when people say, "I don't want kids in my event." Can you blame them?
Nope.
Because I'm gonna tell you right now, if they are inviting people around you and then they tell you, listen, we're not having any kids, it's probably because they know how your kids act. I'm just saying. You pay attention to that. You might want to take that as a hint. Just saying. Go
But
ahead, Mario. I'm sorry.
the overall thing about rentals is understanding who your crowd is, your environment, and the additional things you have to go with your rentals. Just because you got a big backyard doesn't mean it's a good idea. Um,
No.
yeah, I always tell people that it's like I've done a lot of backyard parties, but like I said, if you don't have all the proper necessities to support an outdoor event, you're wasting your time.
Pretty much. And money.
So, but again, to recap on everything, yeah, I mean, of course, no matter what type of event you do, you need to plan way in advance. When it comes down
Mm-hmm.
to family reunions, it takes a lot more coordination, so you have to do a lot more planning in advance. When it comes down
Mm-hmm.
to holidays, doing events on holidays I would say, are extremely no go because the resources you're dealing and you're competing with more resources or people using resources up because it's the holidays. At the same
Mm-hmm.
time, you're not going to get the turnout that you're going to get when you schedule or try to do it on a holiday. Memorial Day
True.
weekend, I'm gonna tell y'all this. I'll keep trying to do events on Memorial Day weekend. I've seen it happen way too many times. You try to do something on Memorial Day weekend, and you find out real quick, oh, you got a Beyonce concert coming that weekend, or you got something else going on. There's a lot of stuff that goes on Memorial Day weekend that you're competing with. So just keep that in
Mm-hmm.
mind when you're doing stuff on the holidays. All right,
True.
so Tish, what's your recap on everything?
My norm, um, plan early, plan accordingly, plan well, uh, and be on one accord. Be it a group that's doing a family reunion or a group that's doing a party or whatever it is, be on one accord. Um, and if it's a celebration of like the family, make it about the family. If it's a celebration of a very specific person, make it about that person.
Right.
And let's take the me out of everything, please. And the I out of everything, please. That's what I got. Oh, and stop throwing away my equipment, please. Or taking it.
Like I said, a charger is a charger. It's not a plate.
Leave it there. Leave it there.
All right. Well,
But
ladies and
that's it.
gentlemen, huh?
I said that's it. That's it for me.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our show. I hope you enjoyed it. Next week, I know we did an extra show earlier. For those that didn't catch it, please go back and check us out on Facebook and my YouTube channel. That show was off the bomb. I think a lot of people enjoy it. I think that was the biggest hit we had in a long time, which I was kind of shocked. But yeah, we had a lot of views of that show on Monday. So if you missed our Monday show, please go back and check it out because it was deep. It was real, real deep. So, but besides that, look, we'll see y'all next week. Y'all take care, be safe, and we're out of here.
All right, you guys. Bye.